The final layer does not come off through force. It comes off through precision. Most men never reach this stage. They plateau in strip, lose a thread in sculpt, call it good enough somewhere before the work is done. Shred is where the physique becomes sharp. Not bodybuilder sharp. That is a different industry with different requirements on life you're not trying to live. Executive sharp. The kind of sharp you see in a man who moves with intention, who doesn't carry what he doesn't need, who has reduced himself to the essential version. That version does not require obsession, it requires precision. Those are not the same thing, and the difference between them is what this episode is about. If you're here for motivation, this is the wrong episode. This one is going to take away an excuse. This is Iron Suits Where Strength Wears a Crown. I am Marwan. Strip clean the foundation. Sculpt, build the structure. Shred is the refinement. It is a stage where the work done in sculpt becomes visible, where the lean muscle build in stage 2 is no longer covered by the last layer of excess that didn't come off in strip. It is a precise stage, not an aggressive one. The men who arrive here and apply strip level aggression make the same mistake in the opposite direction. They restrict too hard. They erode the muscle sculpt builds. They arrive at the end of shred smaller than they need to be and depleted in ways that set up the regression. Shred requires a different instrument than strip. Strip used a restructuring tool. Shred uses a scalpel. You know the moment. You've lost weight. The clothes fit better than they did. You put on a shirt in the morning and it's not the fight it was 6 months ago. And you stand there. And something is still not right. Not bad. Not what it was, but not finished. The structure is there. You can feel it. But there's still something between you and it. One layer, the last one. You know exactly what it is. You just haven't decided to be that precise about it yet. The objective is not to take everything off. The objective is to remove precisely what remains while preserving entirely what was built. I'm not out of shape anymore. So why don't I look finished? Here's what shred produces that the previous 2 stages couldn't. The man you can see, not the man obscured by what strip removed, not the structure hidden under the last layer. The actual, fully visible version. For most men in this conversation, that man has not been visible in longer than they want to say. Not because he disappeared, because he was covered, layered over, year by year, decision by decision, exception by exception. Shred removes the last layer. The man was always there. Shred just removes what was obscuring him. This is not a metaphor. This is the literal physiology of the stage. The muscle is there, built in sculpt. The structure is there, restored in the work. The only thing still between the man and his visible standard is the final layer. Picture the last client dinner. Good restaurant, your city, the kind of place where the bill doesn't come up in conversations because it doesn't need to. You're in the jacket, good jacket, well cut, the one that does a certain amount of work on your behalf before you've said a word. You sit down, the bread lands on the table first, fresh, warm. Nobody ordered it. It just appears the way things do in rooms like this. You don't think about it. You take a piece. Why wouldn't you? The wine comes, you pour, everyone pours. The conversation is good. It's always good at this level. The talk moves fast. There's a deal somewhere in the subtext, and you're reading it without appearing to. And somewhere between the entree and the steak, you feel it. The waistband. Not painful, not embarrassing, just present, reminding you you're still there. And you make the quiet negotiation that men at your level have become very good at. Tonight doesn't count. This is business. This is how dinner works. And you believe it because it's true. And the dessert menu arrives, someone at the table orders, you follow. Not because you needed it, because the permission slip was already signed the moment the bread landed. That's the architecture problem. Not the dinner, not the steak, not even the dessert. The permission slip, the decision that was made before you sat down, or rather the decision that wasn't made. The man in Shred still goes to that dinner, still orders well, still pours the wine, still lets the conversation run where it needs to. He just arrived having already decided, before the jacket went on, before the bread landed. The architecture was in place, so nothing needed to be negotiated at the table. That's the difference. Not restriction, not performance, architecture. I don't want to become the guy who can't eat dinner like a normal man. The line forming in your head is this: I don't want to become obsessed. Hold that thought. Because you run a business, and in that business, you call precision, leadership. You call it margin control. You call it operational discipline. You call it standards. You build a system around it. You review numbers others don't look at. You remove waste others don't notice. You hold people to standards you defined before they walked in the room. Nobody calls that obsession. Nobody pulls you aside and says, you're being a bit extreme with your margin review. But apply the same precision to your body. Define the target, remove the excess, track what matters, hold the standard, and the language changes. Suddenly it's extreme. Suddenly it threatens your relationship with the table. Suddenly the same cognitive discipline that made you worth sitting across from becomes something you need to protect yourself from. That incongruence, right there, that's not wisdom, that's protection. You're not afraid of becoming obsessive. You're afraid of being measured that closely in a place where nobody has been measuring you. Those are not the same fear. You review margins, you don't review your body. You remove inefficiency from your business, you protect inefficiency in the final layer. You set standards for your team, you arrive at dinner undecided. You call it precision, excellence at work, you call it obsession in the mirror. Now listen carefully, because this is where most men fuck it up. Shred is not where you prove you're disciplined. That's amateur thinking. Shred is where you prove you can be restrained. Discipline is adding more effort, more sessions, more restriction. Restraint is knowing exactly what the target requires and applying only that, not more. The obsessive man keeps adding rules. The precise man removes variables. That is the shift Shred is asking you to make. The mechanism of Shred is nutritional precision layered on top of a trained body. This is critical, and most men miss it. Here's the distinction that matters. Nutritional precision applied to an untrained body does not reveal a better version of you. It produces a smaller, softer version of the same man. Less of the same, lighter but not sharper, reduced but not structured. This is why Shred only works after sculpt. The muscle architecture has to exist first. The structure has to be there, built deliberately over time. In stage 2, before precision nutrition has anything to reveal. When you apply a strategic deficit to a trained body, you're not just losing weight. You are removing the layer between the surface and the structure. You are making visible what Sculpt beat, what Sculpt built even. That's a completely different outcome. Not smaller, defined. A nutritionist Shred is not dramatic restriction. It is precisely sized daily deficit, one that burns what remains without signaling the body to protect it. Too aggressive, you sacrifice muscle. Too conservative, nothing moves. The precision of the deficit is what makes Shred different from every diet if already failed. Protein stays high, training continues, not heavier, not more volume. The same signal to the body, the muscle is still needed. Because a movement, that signal stops. The body starts making different decisions, and those decisions undo stage 2. Shred is not a diet. It is a precision instrument applied to a prepared system. Remove that second word, prepared, and the whole thing falls apart. Maybe I'm calling it balance because I don't want the final layer to ask more of me. A social calendar during Shred. This is where most men at this level decide the stage is impossible. The dinners, the travel, the client events, the environments that were always the problem. Shred does not require you to stop living. It requires you to arrive at those environments with a protocol already active. You know this version of yourself, 4 days into a trip even, onto a strip. different city every other night. You slept badly, not terribly, just not fully. The food has been fine, meaning you made reasonable choices inside unreasonable options. The airport, the lounge, the room service at 10 p.m. because the meeting ran. On day 3, you find the gym, hotel gym, 2 treadmills, a rack, a bench, fluorescent lights. You do what you can. 40 minutes. It's not nothing. You look in the mirror, the hotel gym mirror, the honest one, the one with no good light, no flattering angle, nothing doing you any favors. And you think, almost. Not bad, not where you started, almost. You fly home, the airport is the airport. You navigate it the way you always do, with reasonable intentions and one bad decision at the gate, because the delay is real and options are what they are. And then you're home, and the week absorbs you and almost doesn't come with you. It just quietly disappears back into the routine, back into the standard that's been waiting for you, except the standard dropped slightly and you didn't notice because almost looked close enough. That's not a travel problem. That is a precision problem. The man in shreds travels. He uses a hotel gym. He makes reasonable choices in airports. He does all of the same things. He just has the architecture already decided before he lands. The pre-event nutrition, the anchor decision from episode 14. Shred adds one layer to those protocols. Strategic calorie architecture around high consumption events. The day before a heavy dinner, the deficit is larger. The day after, it's restored. The event itself is enjoyed without guilt, without the performance of discipline that announces the program to everyone present. Nobody notices because nothing is being performed. Obsession is visible, precision is invisible. The man in shred looks like he always eats well, because in the ways that matter, he does. If this is exposing something familiar, go back to episode 14 of the series. Your social life is where your standards collapse. Same pattern, different room, because shred doesn't fail in the gym, it fails at the table. Obsession performs discipline. Precision protects the outcome. Obsession makes your life smaller. Precision makes the target smaller. The difference between them is this. Precision knows when to stop. Obsession never does. Shred has an endpoint. When the physique reaches the defined standard, the executive level conditioning that reflects the authority the man carries everywhere else, the stage is complete. Not 1 week earlier, not because motivation ran out, because your objective was met. The obsessive never stops. The precise man reaches a standard, names it, and moves to sustain. You're not trying to be a bodybuilder. You're trying to be the sharpest version of the man you already are. Before you enter shred, you need one thing. Not a plan, not a program, a finish line. What does a condition look like? What does your waist measure? What does a mirror confirm? What date range are you working inside? And most important, what does enough mean? If enough is not defined, shred becomes obsession. There is no end. The standard keeps moving. You keep chasing something that stays 1 week ahead of you. If enough is defined, shred becomes precision. You know what you're removing. You know when it's done, you stop. That single decision, defining the finish line before you start, is what separates the men who complete the stage from the men who either quit early or never leave. Write it down, one sentence, the condition, the date, the standard. If you can't write it in one sentence, you haven't decided yet. 3 stages: strip, remove the chaos; sculpt, restore the structure; Shred removes what was still lying about the structure. I know exactly what has to go. I just don't want to be that precise. The man in the mirror at the end of stage 3 is the man the first 12 episodes were describing, the congruent version, the one whose inside matches his outside, the man who walks into a room and the room adjusts, not because he looks like an athlete, because he looks like a man who does what he says he's going to do, including to himself. That's the thing about the final layer. Everyone else stopped noticing it long ago. You didn't. You've been looking at it every morning in every mirror that doesn't lie, in every jacket that fits almost right, in every photograph where you look like a version of yourself that you don't quite recognize. And you've been managing it, filing it under "I'm healthier than I was. I'm not that guy anymore. This is what balance looks like." All of which is true, and none of which is the finish line. You've been calling it balance, you've been calling it perspective, you've been calling it not wanting to become obsessive. And all of these things have some truth in them. And none of them are the reason. The reason is simpler. The final layer is the last place you haven't been held to a standard. You haven't been held to standard. In every other part of your life, has been sharpened, pressured, measured, improved. The business, the relationship, the leadership. And this one thing, this last layer, has been given a different set of rules. A quieter standard, a more forgiving measure, a permanent exception. And some part of you has been protecting it. Not because you're weak, because it's the last place left that doesn't ask anything of you. And precision would change that. And Iron Suits out. I am Marwan Kilu. Next episode, stage 4, sustain, the only stage that lasts. I'll see you on the next episode.